The sound of chainsaws in my backyard hit me like a gut punch. Not the faint whine of a neighbor trimming branches, but the deep, hungry growl of industrial saws biting into wood that had been standing longer than the neighborhood itself. I dropped the mug of coffee in my hand, barely noticing the hot splash across my boots, and sprinted through the kitchen door. My boots sank into damp earth as I rounded the garden, and that's when I saw Karen standing at the base of one of my oldest oaks, arms crossed, grinning like she'd just caught me breaking into my own house. Two men in neon vests were halfway through the trunk, sawdust spraying like golden confetti into the morning sun. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted over the roar. One of the workers shut off his saw and looked at Karen, waiting for her cue. She didn't flinch, just stepped forward with a clipboard. "HOA order," she said smoothly, as if that explained everything. "These trees are a safety hazard and block the approved sightlines for the neighborhood's landscape plan. We're removing them." She said it like she was doing me a favor. I could feel my pulse in my ears. "Those trees are on my property. You don't have any authority here." She tilted her head with mock sympathy. "You signed the covenant agreement when you moved in. It gives us the right to manage all visible landscape features. And these," she gestured at the towering oaks, "are visible from the street." That was the moment my anger gave way to something colder. Because Karen didn't know, and I wasn't about to tell her until the time was right. Those oaks weren't just mine, they were part of a federally recognized habitat zone. The property line she thought she could bully past was drawn in black ink on a U.S. Department of the Interior map. Cutting them down wasn't just a violation of neighborhood rules, it was a federal offense. I played it calm. "You might want to hold off," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. "Because once you start cutting, you can't undo it." She smirked. "Too late for that." I took a slow step forward, angling my camera to get her, the workers, and the half-severed tree all in the frame. Then I tapped a contact labeled Ranger O'Neill. Within 20 minutes, the hum of chainsaws was drowned out by the crunch of heavy tires on gravel. A green and gold Federal Wildlife Service truck pulled up, two uniformed officers stepping out with the kind of measured pace that makes everyone in the vicinity nervous. Karen's smug expression faltered for the first time. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice a notch higher than before. Officer O'Neill didn't answer her directly. He looked at me. "These the trees you called about?" I nodded. He glanced up at their massive canopies, then down at the exposed cut in the trunk. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am," he said, turning to Karen, "you're standing in a federally protected habitat zone. Do you have any idea what that means?" Karen's eyes darted to the workers, then back to him. "You hits HOA policy," O'Neill cut her off. "It's a federal crime. Each tree is habitat for endangered species under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Endangered Species Act. Cutting one down carries a fine of up to $50,000 and potential jail time." The color drained from her face. "That's ridiculous. These are just trees." I pulled the laminated property map from my back pocket and handed it to O'Neill. "They've been trying to manage my land for months. Today, they crossed the line literally." O'Neill studied the map, then turned back to Karen. "Ma'am, you and your crew need to put down your tools immediately and stay where you are. We'll be contacting the U.S. Attorney's Office." The workers didn't need telling twice, they dropped their saws like they were hot irons. Karen, though, tried to regain control, pointing at me and hissing, "You set me up." I didn't even bother denying it. "No," I said evenly. "You set yourself up the moment you thought HOA rules outranked federal law." Karen's voice went up an octave as she realized every neighbor within earshot had come out to watch. Doors were open, phones were out, and the sight of a Federal Wildlife Service truck parked in my driveway was the kind of gossip fuel this neighborhood lived for. She tried to talk over the murmurs, but O'Neill wasn't giving her the stage. "Ma'am," he said in that flat, no-nonsense tone, "you are in violation of multiple federal statutes. You ordered work on land you do not own and attempted to destroy protected habitat. You will remain here until county deputies arrive to take your statement, and I recommend you consider your words carefully." Her bravado cracked. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president. I was following community safety procedures. O'Neill didn't blink. The only safety procedures you should be following right now are the ones that keep you out of federal court. One of the neighbors laughed sharp, loud, and contagious, and the sound spread down the line of gawkers. Then came the twist. From the back of the crowd, Edna, the HOA treasurer, stepped forward holding a folder so thick it was bending in the middle. "I've got more for you," she told O'Neill. "Meeting minutes, financial records, email Saul showing Karen has been using HOA funds to hire contractors for personal vendettas. The trees today are just one example." O'Neill accepted the folder, flipping through page after damning page. "This will go to the U.S. attorney as well," he said without looking up. Karen's cheeks burned crimson. "You've been spying on me?" she hissed at Edna. Edna didn't flinch. "No, Karen. I've been protecting this neighborhood from you." The crowd murmured their approval. Even the workers, who minutes earlier were cutting into my oaks, looked relieved to be anywhere but on her side. The county deputies arrived, and the shift in energy was palpable. Morales, the same deputy who'd been here for past HOA dust-ups, took one look at the scene and shook his head. "Karen," he said, "I warned you months ago about overstepping your authority." She started to protest, but he read her rights anyway. The sound of the cuffs clicking shut was met with a collective exhale from the crowd. They walked her past the tree line, past the saws, and straight to the back of the patrol car. The legal fallout was swift. The U.S. Attorney's Office filed charges for unlawful destruction of protected habitat, trespassing on federal land, and misuse of HOA funds. Each carried its own penalties, and the fines alone could have bankrupted her twice over. The HOA board, desperate to distance themselves, voted her out unanimously within a week and issued a formal apology to me and the neighborhood. I didn't stop there. I worked with the Wildlife Service to have the entire section of forest every oak, pine, and understory shrub designated as a permanent conservation area. We installed informational signs about the endangered birds nesting there, and I invited the local school to bring kids for field trips. The trees Karen tried to erase became the centerpiece of our community's pride. Months later, when her trial made the front page, the headline read, "Former HOA President Convicted in Federal Land Case." The article detailed everything: her forged claims, her misuse of funds, her arrogance in the face of repeated warnings. She was sentenced to a year in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution to the HOA and the conservation program. The morning after the verdict, I walked the trail beneath the oaks. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, birds sang in the branches, and the air felt lighter somehow. Neighbors waved when they passed, not out of pity or obligation, but out of genuine respect. The same hedge of suspicion that used to separate us had been replaced with something better: shared ownership of the truth. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about cutting someone down, it's about making sure what they tried to destroy grows stronger than ever. And sometimes, the sweetest justice is watching the law you respect bury the arrogance they thought would protect them. If someone tried to erase what you love under the guise of authority, would you step aside or stand your ground until they're the ones cut down?